Hello, namaste. Welcome to Yin Wellness and the Willow Show. I'm Willow. I'm your sexpert for the Hormonally Challenged, and I am deeply exploring sovereignty right now. So I wanted to make a Willow Show about what sovereignty actually is and what it can mean for you in your life. So the word itself. First of all, it's hard to spell, right? And it's a big word, and a lot of us don't really know what it means, but it's definitely out there. It's out there in the world, and people are throwing it around, and they're using it in their marketing, and they're using it all over the place, and it's wonderful because it's kind of like yoga. The more people who are doing it, the better it is for our planet and for our whole community. So sovereignty is something that I want you to really understand and get for your own benefit and for your own sovereignty. The word itself, the definition is for one to have the authority to rule over a land or a kingdom, traditionally, right? That's what it means. But it's also for one to have the authority to rule over themselves, to rule over their whole life. So your life is like a kingdom. The world around you is yours to create. And your world only exists because you exist. If you were not there to perceive your world and the people in your world, then that world wouldn't exist. It just wouldn't exist without you. So you can really start to think of yourself as the center of your own universe. And as the center of your own universe, whether you're male, female, or gender neutral or binary or whatever you are, you get to choose to be the sovereign one, right? You get to wear the crown upon your head in your own life and be the one who has the authority to make the right calls for yourself, to make the right decisions for yourself. And goes on so many different levels. So let's explore these levels a little bit. So the main three relics of a sovereign king or queen are the sword, the scepter, which is like a staff or a wand, and then of course the crown, right? So you can think about the sword. The sword is that which cuts through the BS, cuts through the doubt, cuts through the fear. It cuts through everything that keeps you playing small and keeps you from really living your highest potential. So you've got your sword and you can cut all that crap out. And then I also like to think of that sword because it's so straight, it's so direct, and it has such a sharp, pointy end to it that it is kind of like a navigation tool, right? It points you to exactly what your truth is. And when you know what your truth is, that is a huge part of your sovereignty. You've got to know what your truth is, and then you've got to be able to express that truth in your life. So that sword of truth is very important relic in sovereignty. So what is your sword of truth? What's the truth deep inside of you that you know you need to express to probably an intimate person in your life or someone really close in your life? It could also be someone you work with, could be a lot of different people in your life. So the sword, relic number one. Relic number two is the crown. And we all know that when we wear that crown of truth, oops, it's windy. And so the second relic is the crown, right? And so we all know that when we wear that crown of truth on our heads, that we are responsible for that truth. We're responsible for what our essence is and what we are exposing or explaining or expanding to the world around us. So that is a very important one. And when you put your crown on every single morning, it's going to allow you to stand a little taller, to have a little better posture, and to really start to think of yourself as the one, the only one who has authority in your life, the authority to make the calls that are right for you. The third relic of sovereignty is the scepter. Do I have a scepter nearby? Not really, but this will do. So the scepter is a stick, right? It's usually a staff. Like the Druids, they had their staffs. The Merlins, they walked with a staff. The fairies, they have their wand, right? And the kings and the queens would have a scepter. So a beautifully long pole, ornately decorated with jewels and just beautiful things. So it's anything that is like a power stick for you. And when you hold on to it, you are in your power. Could be a microphone for some people. For some people, it's a hiking pole. You know, for some people, it's a selfie stick. I don't know. There's a lot of ways that you can hold on to a scepter in your life, or a stick that makes you feel more powerful. Okay, so that scepter, the first time I received a scepter in my life, I got this beautiful vision. I was doing Qigong in a Druid tree circle, and I got this beautiful vision. I just got handed this staff, this rod, and at the top was this golden glowing orb, and from that scepter I started to connect with the heavens more. I started to connect especially with the moon. I've already been very connected to the moon, but even more, the moon essence came through that scepter, through that wand or that stick of truth, and from there I was able to channel that right into the ocean, right into the healing of the ocean. So between the moon and the ocean, I have learned to be a conduit of energy, and that is one of my truths. That's just something that I do. It's something I love to do. It feels good inside of my body. I teach other people how to do it, and that scepter came through from being in a certain place at a certain time and doing certain movements and breath work with my body that I had been cultivating for years. Those are the three relics of sovereignty. You could also think about sovereignty on a physical level. You could think about your gut, which is one center of thought process in your brain. You could think about your heart, which is another thought process in your body and in your brain. And then you could think about your head, your actual brain. So we've got these three brains in our bodies: our belly brain, our heart brain, and our head brain. I personally have had digestive issues for a long time, pretty much my whole life. So when I explore this concept of sovereignty, I really take it to that enteric level, to that level of listening to my digestive system, to the point where if I'm eating a meal, if I'm eating a big meal, or even when I'm having my celery juice in the morning, if my belly isn't ready to take in more, that's its truth, right? And so I have to listen to that truth, and I need to pause and breathe and let the digestion happen for as long as that sovereign system inside of my body needs in order to properly digest life and to properly digest what I'm taking in nutritiously. I think about my heart. You know, your heart is such a home of sovereignty because it is one of those places in our bodies that we tend to not listen to. It can be scary. It can be very vulnerable to listen to your heart. But when you do start to listen to your heart and really let its truth and its essence shine through, magic happens. Okay, so when you can learn how to speak your truth from your heart in a way that the people in your life can receive it, that's the ticket. You got to speak it in a way that people can receive it. When you're able to do that, you don't feel constricted anymore. You don't feel confined. You don't feel like you have to hold it all together. You know, you don't feel like you have to be composed all the time and look a certain way and sound a certain way and act a certain way. And that's what sovereignty is not, is when you're worried about the way that you look or the way that you are appearing in the world, or what that person thinks about you, then you're not in a sovereign state in those moments. So it's about you getting into a state of congruence with your gut, with your heart, and with your head. I am a very heady person too, I get it. And this frontal lobe of your brain can just run amok, right? It can run away from you, and it can create all these stories and all these dramas that don't need to be there. So I very deeply encourage you to drop your eyes back into their sockets. Soften this center right here between your brows. Soften this center at the crown of your head, and let your jaw drop, and just see what happens. See if you can drop that frontal lobe back into the hind brain and create a little bit more space for your mind to receive the messages of your heart and of your gut. So that's a little bit about sovereignty. And the last thing I want to say is that it's a practice, okay? It takes years, and it takes paying attention, and it takes listening. And what happens is that layers of sovereignty start to be created in your life until you really are just wearing your crown all the time, and you really are the queen of your own reality, or king, or whatever you are. And it's something that I highly recommend you start to develop and explore and experience with yourself, and find ways that you get to receive sovereign messages for yourself. For me, it's out in nature, doing qigong, breathing, singing, really communing with the earth, with the land. That's where I get my messages, but you might get them in some completely different form. So you got to find what's right for you, because that is the essence of sovereignty. What's right for you, and what do you want to create in your life? So you've got it, my love. Have fun with it, and I'll see you on the flip side.